everybody. Welcome back to Bit About Crypto. I'm David James, the Job Whisperer. And once again, I'm here with my co-host, Dave Hampton, RoboRecruiter. Welcome, Dave.
How's it going?
It's going well. So we actually own Blockchain Recruiters, and we recruit in the entire blockchain space. And blockchain is going to take over the world. And there are going to be two kinds of people in the world, those that come willing and those that come dragged into blockchain. And and it's just blown up. So what we do at Blockchain Recruiters is we aggregate people throughout the entire crypto sphere, NFTs, blockchain, Hyperledger Fabric, whatever it is, we aggregate those people. So if you're somebody who actually has a project and you actually need to hire somebody, you should call the RoboRecruiter right here because he does all that intake. He's all forward facing with clients, and you can find him. Tell him where you can find you, David.
You can find me at Dave at blockchainrecruiters.net. You can call me, my work line, 760-513-6151. You can try me on my Twitter account. That's BC RoboRecruiter. So those are the ways.
Yeah, man. And if you're looking to repurpose your life or you want something in the blockchain space, then send me, David James, an email, davidj@blockchainrecruiters.net. So the fact that at the time that this show is going to air will be probably the second week of February or later. And by that time, Dallas Cowboys will have won the Super Bowl 63-0 to whomever they've played. So I just want you to know that's going to be the prediction. No, I'm totally kidding. So,
man, you're such a joke.
Anyhow, everybody knows I love Bitcoin. Everybody knows I love BitBlock Boom. As a matter of fact, we recently had Gary Leland on the show. That was pretty good. He was really People don't realize it that he's stupid like a fox, right? He's so smart, and when you listen to his ingenuity and his insight, right? He put that thing together. And as a matter of fact, BitBlock Boom has outgrown Dallas, and now it actually will be in Austin next year. We're going.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, we're absolutely. And thank God for Bitcoin.
I mean, it's still going to be hot as,
It's Greece.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
And you're from Dallas.
I'm from Dallas, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, I remember those unpleasant summers.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't get relief at midnight or at 6 a.m.
Well, our next guest is actually from Dallas, but she's a lot of things, right? She literally, I actually met her at BitBlock Boom, and I don't know how it is I got her, but I remember I said I wanted to know more about her. And of course, we're recruiters. When we hear about someone, we get their name. What do?
Look them up on LinkedIn.
Look them up on LinkedIn. That's what I did. And Hailey Lennon, Esquire, she's I don't know. You're pretty smart. I don't know if I'm smart enough to talk to this gal because she went to MIT, and
she got a fintech certificate.
Yeah, fintech certificate. She went to MIT, right? She's a JD. She's a lawyer. So anyhow, I think she get tired of talking to someone like me after 5 minutes. Run out of things to talk about, right? She'd be looking for someone smart like you. I don't know. But anyhow, with no further ado, let's bring on Hailey Lennon, Esquire. Thank you so much for joining us here on Bit About Crypto.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the little that I do know about you is that Dallas is home. You lived in San Diego for 10 years where you went to law school. And now you live in San Francisco?
I'm in Santa Barbara currently. So I was in San Francisco the last 4 years working at Bitflyer and Coinbase. But with COVID, I jumped ship and left the big city, and I'm in Santa Barbara right now.
Yeah,
so lucky.
McConnell's is the best ice cream on planet Earth.
Yeah,
it is. So if you need to get over there, but anyhow, that tells you you're living in Santa Barbara, and so good for you.
Beautiful. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, it is, especially if you can actually see those sunsets if you go up to the Riviera. It's just there's just nothing like it. It's so great. Went down memory lane. So yeah,
okay.
I'll tell you this: that if you live in Santa Barbara long enough, your entire neighborhood will burn in a fire. So that happened to me in '91, and my best friend actually happened to him in '94.
Yeah, it's an issue. We're having rain today, so that's good. We're always grateful for rain.
We'll take it. Yeah. So tell me about you growing up. So like just from informative ages all the way like through high school. Tell me what you did, who you were, what your family was like.
Yeah. So I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Grew up for a few years there on a dirt road. Entire family from Dallas, and went to high school there. I am kind of a exception, I think, to most attorneys, or I knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was really little. My grandfather was an oil attorney in Dallas, and he actually tried to talk me out of going to law school. He was like, you're going to have to spend nights and all-nighters and weekends studying, and it's just horrible. And so most of my childhood, he tried to talk me out of going to law school, but I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a trial attorney. I was definitely wrong about that. I do not want to be a trial attorney.
Did you actually get to be a trial attorney? Is that how you know that? Or do you just talk to other people? Or how did you figure that out?
I think both. So I, right after law school, I started as an associate at Gordon and Reese, and I was doing commercial litigation. I only got to go to court and be in front of a judge a few times, but I just, I don't mind public speaking, but for some reason, the pressure of that, I just really didn't enjoy all the sort of like formalities of it. And also being an associate's hard. You have to pay your dues in the law firm, and you don't get to actually interact with the clients as much. So for me, it just didn't feel like my calling, and now that I'm in Bitcoin, I can say that is my calling.
Yeah. I get it. I also noticed, I just jump around here, but you actually worked at the Gomez law firm, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I know John Gomez.
You do?
Yeah. Which is like, I live in San Diego, et cetera, et cetera. And I know he's an attorney, but he strikes me, I don't know him through law, I know him personally. He strikes me as a really earnest guy. Like he is. He's really well known in San Diego for his personal injury work. What's funny is I actually, all through law school, I nannied. And so I actually nannied for him and his wife and their 3 kids throughout law school. I kind of like would, when the kids were napping, I would do some of my legal homework and stuff like that. And then after about a year with his family, he knew I was in law school, and I said, either ask for a letter of recommendation, or just if he knew what law firms he would recommend me apply to. And he's like, why don't you work at my law firm this summer? So then I got to be a summer associate there, which was awesome. And I did enjoy that, actually. He does a lot of traumatic brain injury litigation and like high profile slip and falls at, Starbucks, that sort of thing. So it was a pretty interesting summer for me to kind of get to shadow some of the partners there. Yeah. Well, I said to him, I hope I don't need you. Right. And I said, I especially hope I don't meet you, like on the other side. Right.
Yeah. No, he's an amazing attorney. I would say one of the best in San Diego. So I was really lucky to get to work with him.
Yeah. So I don't want to brush over this too quickly. So you're in high school. Did you do any type of sports, or did you just like keep your head
Soccer.
down? Okay.
Where'd you go to high school?
So I went to high school 1 year here in Santa Barbara, Laguna Blanca. It's a private school, but then I moved to Highland Park High School in Dallas, Texas. Played soccer. We got second in state my senior year. I also sang in choir all throughout high school and in college. So kind of dabbled in a few things, but and debate and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, debate, of course. So then you're graduating high school. So were you like 9th grade at Laguna Blanca?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hope Ranch.
And then moved back. Yeah, I kind of did a bunch of jumping around. I was raised by a single mom, and so we had a lot of flexibility sort of, and I kind of want to go see what Santa Barbara's like, or Dallas, and all my family's from Dallas. I was like 4th generation Highland Park High School graduate or something. So it was neat to like go back there and experience that sort of like Friday Night Light vibe.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. That's where SMU is. That whole area is SMU essentially.
Yeah. Did you know that? No. That's your hometown. I could talk to her about it. I know where Laguna Blanca is. I know exactly where that is. I could drive you there at night. So, no, I haven't. So it's funny. So you go to MIT. And so I asked this question. So like when you're like a junior in high school, sophomore in high school, what do you think? I mean, you've already decided you're still going to be a lawyer, right? This is still part of the plan. So what?
So I didn't go to college at MIT. I went to Loyola Marymount. But MIT
Oh, that's the fintech. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you go
right.
to Loyola.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I started at Loyola Marymount in LA. A big part of the reason I went there was I was talking to them about potentially playing soccer. I ended up not playing soccer in college, but they offered. I majored in business, but they were one of the few colleges that you could do an emphasis in business law. So even in college, I started learning how to like summarize case law and things like that. So I really liked Loyola Marymount for that reason. There were some great teachers, and just sort of felt a little bit more prepared when I went to law school.
So yeah, it's funny. So did you live in Marina Del Rey when you went there?
I did, yeah. For most of the time, I was on campus. So I like LA a lot. I may move back there next year. Once I need that big city feel again. But
it's funny. You and I have this in common. We both live in Santa Barbara, right?
Mm-hmm.
We both went to high school in Santa Barbara, not the same place, right?
Yep.
I lived in Redondo, right? Just right up to, just down a little bit more south of Marina Del Rey, and San Diego. It's really funny.
That is funny.
So Loyola, okay, so Loyola, so that you're pre-law, and so you're going to go to law. And do you know what type of like law you're going to do? I mean, you just got to be a lawyer, you got to figure it out.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, unless you want to get like your tax LLM or a very specific legal degree that might take an extra year or something. Most people just, go to law school. You don't have to choose an emphasis or focus or anything. Mm-hmm. And the first year is pretty much like law 101, like contracts, property law, torts. So you start to get a feel for the different areas that, your legal practice could touch on. Mm-hmm. And then you can start to, really choose your electives and start to focus on areas that you're actually interested in possibly pursuing.
So I'm going to ask you this. How did Bitcoin find you?
So I'm very lucky that I went to law school in San Diego, because I'm not sure if I hadn't, everything would have happened in the same order or as early on for me. But so I graduated from law school in San Diego. I started practicing law at Gordon and Reese. And then I joined, I really wanted to go in-house. I wanted to become an in-house counsel, but oftentimes companies don't want someone so junior to be in, general counsel or in-house at their company. So I found this smaller company in San Diego called DollarX. And what DollarX does is wholesale currency exchange for little exchange centers along the Mexico border. So anyways, I joined them as in-house counsel. I was a second year lawyer. I was Googling everything. Like when I had to write an employment agreement, I was Googling, trying to find templates. Like I was really, and they knew that, and my pay reflected that I was young and learning, but I was really excited about it. So I did sort of everything there as a general counsel, but because they were doing currency exchange, money, dollars to pesos, I quickly started to learn sort of like the anti-money laundering and different compliance efforts that a company like that has to have. And so I got super interested in financial crime, anti-money laundering, that sort of thing. I got my ACAM certification, it stands for the Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialist. It's a test you can take, much easier than the bar.
Do you have to be a lawyer? Do you have to be a lawyer to take it?
You don't. No. Most people who are working in some sort of financial compliance roles take it. So a chief compliance officer or a compliance analyst it would be good to have. But I really think it's all the background information of financial crime and anti-money laundering efforts. And so it gives, I think, anybody a pretty good baseline understanding of the reason some regulators or government sort of stress the ability to misuse Bitcoin. And so it kind of, I think it could arm anybody to better understand that, and then also understand the things that the industry is doing to combat any increased risk of money laundering or financial crime.
Yeah. So now you found your calling. You found, hey, I'm excited about this. And before you go on to that, I bet now that you found Bitcoin, I'm just going to jump ahead a bit, but then you probably look back at what $X was doing, and you were saying, hey, man, these people are criminals. I mean, I'm sure they didn't start out as criminals, but then, power corrupts, right?
So, well, what I'll say about working at X is it really stressed the reason for Bitcoin and why a company or a person individually would benefit from it.
Yeah, talk about that for our audience. Yeah, please.
So pretty much what X was doing was the actual physical conversion. The physical, conversion of Bitcoin to pesos, armored trucks, taking it from these little exchange centers to the banks, and all that friction of physical dollars, the security around it. And so I just started to really realize like how inefficient sort of traditional financial systems and currency are. And so then my boyfriend at the time was starting to talk about Bitcoin a little bit. I didn't really get it, but then I started to really understand, like, why can I send an email to someone and they'll get it immediately, frictionless, low cost. And the only way I can do that with Bitcoin or with, traditional money is to use PayPal or Venmo, and it's still relying on traditional banking systems. And there's still, there can still be delays in getting that money into your bank. And Bitcoin kind of removes all of that friction and makes it so you don't have to rely on banks and their business hours and banking holidays and that sort of thing.
So what I really wanted to get to is what so your then boyfriend was sort of talking about Bitcoin. You weren't paying attention, and you started.
Yeah.
What actually happened that got you orange pilled? I mean, to the point where I see you at BitBlock Boom, right? So if you're you don't just like have a little Bitcoin or own a little Grayscale trust. You're a self-custody, multi-sig.
I'm in it.
CoinKite, user, right? So talk about how you got orange pilled.
Yeah. So about 2 years into working at X, Silvergate Bank reached out to me, and Silvergate Bank, for your viewers, is sort of the largest and earliest bank that banks cryptocurrency companies in the space. And they reached out to me and said, we want to bank this industry. We don't really know how. We're not sure what we should be looking at from a compliance or due diligence standpoint. So, but what you're doing at X in terms of understanding those little exchange centers along the Mexico border, that's exactly what we want someone to do for the Coinbases and the Krakens of the world who want a bank account. And we need to document why they have a strong enough compliance program to warrant that. And so I joined Silvergate. And pretty much as soon as I started meeting some of these early projects and exchanges and like their executive team or their founders, and started hearing about the different use cases they were experiencing, the different, clients and areas they were, servicing and giving access to Bitcoin, my mind just I was really blown away at just the potential impact for this technology.
What year was this?
2014.
Okay.
Maybe late 2013. So it was pretty early on. And yeah, pretty much right that, I would say within my first week or two at Silvergate, my role was taking these companies and doing the due diligence on them and writing an executive summary that sort of weighed any of the, risks that company would pose if we provided them a bank account, whether it be that they didn't have money transmitter licenses like they needed to, whether they didn't have a strong enough compliance program, whether there was a lot of consumer protection issues, like if a lot of customers were suing them or just like bad, customer reviews online. So I was sort of like looking at the whole world of these companies. And like I said, it was just sort of that aha moment when I started really like summarizing and presenting them to our executive team and saying, we should bank this company. Here's why we shouldn't bank this company. Here's the things they still need to work on before we can. I just like lit up. And yeah, I think once you go down the crypto rabbit hole, like you can't go back.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, you guys are both from Texas, right? So it's really, really interesting. So, but you found yourself actually from there, then working. I know you did Bitflyer, but you went to work for Coinbase.
Yeah.
Right. So you're probably talking to Brian about a lot of things.
Correct? Yes. Yep. Yeah. I worked directly with Brian
before they went public. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Brooks was the former chief legal officer of Coinbase. Like, he's a huge part of the reason I joined Coinbase, because I just knew that you can't really have a better mentor or a person to learn from. He's so passionate about the space and well educated on the space and articulate about the space, and so. Being able to be with him and regulators in the same room was a pretty irreplaceable experience.
So why did you leave? You left like just over a year ago. Why did you leave?
Yeah. So there was a few reasons. One is the opportunity that arose at Anderson Kill. I talked with them for quite a while, took a little break in between, but Anderson Kill is the current law firm I work at. The other is that Brian Brooks left and went to the OCC. And when that happened, I just felt like some of the aspects of my role that really had drawn me to be at Coinbase just left with him in some ways. And, at Coinbase, they have 1,000 employees, 35 attorneys in-house, still rely heavily on outside counsel also. And so I just wanted more of an opportunity to sort of like lead an organization and have more of a seat at the table, and not be in such a big sort of in-house law firm almost.
Can you talk about what your current thrive is as it relates to what you're doing with Anderson Kill?
Yeah. So I guess it's crazy. It's already been a year. It feels like I just joined, but I think that's a combination of how busy we've been and COVID kind of makes like time go by in a weird way. But so I joined Anderson Kill about a year ago as a partner there. The law firm in general is really well known for their insurance work in the space. But they've, been very supportive of there being a smaller group of cryptocurrency, digital asset only focused attorneys. And so I joined Stephen Pally and Preston Byrne, two other well-known crypto attorneys in the space. They were already there. So I sort of joined their team as the third partner to build out their cryptocurrency practice. And what I brought that they didn't really cover as much yet, based on all my experience over the last years at Coinbase and Bitflyer and Silvergate, is really the regulatory anti-money laundering, money transmitter laws, SEC regulation. And so what I'm really doing is helping clients start on the right foot in the US with regulators, getting licenses, or on the back end when things go south with the regulator.
So who's hiring you guys? Right? Startup exchanges?
Sure. Yeah, pretty much any type of cryptocurrency company you can think of. So we helped an exchange apply for a full national bank charter. I helped a company go through their FinCEN IRS money laundering exam. I'm helping a client that's an exchange get their 50 state money transmitter licenses. Okay. But we help startups too. Preston focuses on transactional and corporate things. So when it comes to entity formation or anything having to do with like equity or cap tables or contract negotiations, we kind of cover the full stream of things for cryptocurrency companies.
So you're uniquely qualified to answer this question. I have a few guests who can answer it. So as far as the price of Bitcoin, all right?
Yep.
So there's been speculation that if we were to, traditionalists who actually buy, self-custody and hodl and hold Bitcoin,
Yep.
there are two schools of thought. School of thought is it's going to be really good because that's going to get exposure to Bitcoin and it's going to make the price go up because then people can actually, institutional people that don't want to buy Grayscale or don't want to actually self-custody or doing that Michael Saylor stuff, they can now just take a position on the ETF.
Yep.
But the problem is there's feelings that the price could be manipulated.
Yep.
And I've had this argument with my friend. Like, we've had the GameStop thing happen and we've got gold, which is artificially. But basically, I don't, on Wall Street, those guys, they're just thieves and criminals. And the rule on Wall Street is break any law you want. We will actually get it reversed with our lobbyists in Congress. I'm paraphrasing it, but I'm not paraphrasing it.
Right.
And so I have some personal opinions on it just from what I experience and what I watch and what I learn. I'm trying to watch what people are doing, not what people are saying. Mm-hmm. And so just before we talk about why there is or is not an ETF, can you tell me what you think about my hypothesis?
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about cryptocurrency is pretty much every criticism people try to peg onto cryptocurrency, whether it's true or not, is a criticism that could usually be made about traditional finance or money. So I think that's one aspect of this. I think the idea of market manipulation, the regulated exchanges in the US do a lot to prevent market manipulation, including, trade surveillance, surveilling the trades that are going on, prohibiting insider trading. So employees can't go buy a coin a week before they know it's going to be listed on an exchange. So there's a ton of efforts that have gone into this area.
Okay. And you watched that happen at Coinbase. Because this is the first I'm hearing it. You watched this happen at Coinbase. You're saying that we're pretty strict on none of the price manipulation. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I would have to disclose, on a, I think, monthly or quarterly basis, any new coins that I had purchased. But then there was also just a general rule of a few day window before being listed that any employees that had non-public information wouldn't buy those coins, weren't allowed to. So yeah, there's a lot of efforts there. I mean, even NASDAQ and certain vendors help these exchanges do trade surveillance to make sure there's not wash trading or that sort of thing. So I think my personal opinion is that some regulators are running out of reasons to reject things. And then they just keep going back to the same sort of narrative of Bitcoin's used for money laundering. It's more used than the dollar for criminal activity. It's anonymous. It's the wild, wild west.
But it's not anonymous, and we know that.
It's prone to market manipulation. Those 5 comments have just been what certain agencies or regulators fall back on.
Want the narrative to be. Yeah. It's getting tired. And so the funny thing about it is I've asked myself on when I hear these things that I'm just calling not accurate, where they say, whales are manipulating the markets. I'm just thinking to myself, you gotta, I don't even know, it would have to be someone like Michael Saylor, right? With their 400,000 Bitcoins. They would have to it's like the guy that's got $5 billion worth of Shiba Inu. It's well, if you try and liquidate it, you'll crash it before you sell 5%. Right. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know that I believe it. I'll tell you what I do believe, okay? And I'm going to talk about 2 things. I think the price of Bitcoin, the reason it's not nearly as high is I don't think there's real price discovery on it because of so many people who are trading on margin, all right? And when the stock market goes bad, right? Oh, well, we buy high and sell low, right? So everybody's just liquidating everything that they have. And part of that is their Bitcoin holdings. But I do think that there's something. Can you comment on, I just want your opinion, not legally what you know, just.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about how margin, impacts price discovery. But what I'll say is I think that there's been ways in which the conversion between different coins can be seen as sort of manipulating the market. And like there was that report that came out, I don't know when, a year or two ago, about how Tether and Bitfinex were the sole reason.
There's no money. There's no money there. It's a fraud, right? That's right.
Mm-hmm. And there was a report and research done, and I can't speak to the validity of the results and the report, but that that some of the Tether movement and then conversion into Bitcoin had been part of the reason Bitcoin went up to 20K, a few years ago. So I think that people just like hear these certain stories and then think, wow, that's not safe, and so like the SEC, what they're charged with doing is consumer protection. There's some questions to be asked where the line should be drawn about like, are you really protecting a consumer if you're just not letting them partake in a market they want to partake in?
Yeah, right. Right. Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're the regulator. You mentioned the ETF. They're the regulator who they've now approved a futures Bitcoin ETF, but they have not approved the Bitcoin spot ETF.
The problem with the spot ETF is that if they actually have it and trade it, then the entity, the exchange, has to have it. They actually have to possess that much Bitcoin. Yeah. It has to be that. So there needs to be an audit. It's like, okay, you traded 1,000 Bitcoin. Let's see them, right? Whereas the ETF, where the futures trade, they don't have to have any. It's literally they're the bookmaker and they're betting the outcome of a football game. Are you taking the Rams or are you taking the Broncos? That's exactly what it is. Rams lower, Broncos higher, right? And then if you go higher and it goes lower, then the people that lose pay the winners and they take a small vig, right? So the reason that it's easy to do that is because they don't actually have to possess the Bitcoin. And this is what I think when they actually have an actual physical Bitcoin ETF, there'll be no way they can rehypothecate. And that's why I actually think it's good. But I'm really, really glad. And I was hoping I'm going to ask you the question right now, because when I actually make my case for Bitcoin, right? And I told everybody that I have positions and I have trades. Okay. My position is Bitcoin. Everything else I have is a trade that I will eventually sell to get more Bitcoin. I just think there are some other coins that accelerate faster. Yeah. For example, Cardano went from 9 cents to $2 in a year. Okay, Bitcoin didn't 20x, right? So there's the opportunity there to liquidate that and get more Bitcoin. I'm just saying, and I know when I explain that at BitBlock Boom, they want me to go to Opus Dei and whip myself, right? Repent. It's like, no. My strategy is to get more Bitcoin. What's your strategy? Just to hold the Bitcoin you have and watch it? So potato. But so in order to support Bitcoin and to talk to people about Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is solid, I think of every way I can destroy it. What would I do if it was my job to destroy it? How could I possibly destroy it? I think China did us a great favor. Thank you, China, for reducing the 50. If they were smart, they would have subsidized everybody. They would have had 70% of all the miners there, right? And then all of a sudden they would have actually nationalized it and they would have done the 51% attack, right? But thank you, China, for your wisdom, because you want your crappy CBDC to work. And I'm digressing. So. Right. What I think is going to happen, I think the next attack when the Fed, right, and all this bogus money printing, it just realizes we've got 50 pounds of water and only one little bag of Kool-Aid, and it's like it's not even colored anymore, let alone sweet. Right? When they realize that about the money, they're going to find a way to prevent the on-ramp and the off-ramp, specifically saying you may not use Bank of America or Chase to actually buy or cash out Bitcoin. Now, that's where I'd attack if I was cloaked in the immense power of the government. Can you speak to that? My conspiracy theory?
So I think that would have been more likely a few, 2 or 3 years ago. There's actually in the last 2 years with Brian Brooks joining the OCC and then more recently the OCC agreeing with him. Pretty much Brian joined and, I don't think he tried to hide.
That's the Office of the Currency Comptroller of the Currency. Just for our audience, right? Go on.
Yes. Yeah. So the Office of Comptroller of the Currency really oversees national banks and in some ways like monetary policy, that sort of thing. So Brian Brooks left Coinbase, joined the OCC to lead that. And part of his initiatives were surrounding cryptocurrency and this sort of just like clarifying guidance, nothing really new, but just saying, hey, you know, banks have always been in the United States to help safekeeping of crypto and of our property, of our money. There's safety security boxes that you can put gold in or jewelry or whatever you want. And so he really stressed the point that cryptocurrency is no different. So pretty much we have the OCC comptroller of the currency and who came after him agreeing that banks can hold crypto, they can validate nodes, they can deal in stable coins. I would argue that a bank could do the exchange of cryptocurrency itself and then custody it. So I think it would actually be very difficult. It wouldn't be impossible. That's an area they could try to attack, but there's, you know, different concepts of sort of fair access to the banking system. And it's kind of frowned upon for a banking system to completely unbank an industry unless
You mean like cannabis?
I was going to say, unless it's federally illegal.
Oh, okay. Okay, so so there's no frown there. Okay, I understand.
Right.
That.
I mean, there's something to...
No, it is federally illegal. I totally understand.
Which is, you know, I won't bring up my opinion on that. But yeah, I think
your opinion's same as mine.
Yeah,
So.
I think so. You know, I think the Silvergate banks of the world kind of like charged forward with this initiative years ago and said, hey, you know, these companies deserve to have operating accounts. They need to pay their, you know, employees and rent, but they should also be able to have trading accounts with us because they have dollars coming in and then they're converting it to Bitcoin. So I think that that's a good attack vector, but I'm not sure. I think I actually see some bank getting more into this space more aggressively over the next few years.
Yeah, well, the good news is every day that goes by that I see something like the Grayscale Trust or that Visa is paying or that PayPal is buying and all these things that I'm seeing, that means there's one more dollar going into one lobbyist's pocket to actually pass a line that Bitcoin good, banks bad. I mean, you know, just every day that goes by, I'm going, we're getting to that point of no return on that.
I think so too. I mean, I think that the relationship with crypto and banking has always just been such an interesting one because in many ways, and we don't think about it a lot here in the United States because our banking system functions relatively well. You know, we can go to the bank and you trust your money's there and inflation hasn't completely destroyed the dollar yet. But in other countries,
we're 40% there, but go on.
But in other countries, you know, there are people who either don't trust their government, don't trust their banks, don't trust the people that are supposed to be, you know, taking care of them, or don't even have access to bank accounts in general. Like in some countries, a woman can't get a bank account unless her husband signs on to it. So, or there's, you know, places that don't have access to banks. And so in my mind, like Bitcoin in a way fixes the problem of banks, but crypto companies still need banking relationships. And so I think we're seeing like a more of a merging between those two industries.
You'll appreciate the story I'm about to tell you before we get to the end, right? Because it's for our audience. But you know, so I'm a stud. I like crime stories. I like mafia stories. I like cartel stories. I like when they do those reenactments, cocaine cowboys. I like seeing how everybody did all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So basically, 9/11 happened in 2001 September, and it was 2010, right? 9 years later, right? Bush was out of office, right? And Obama was in office. And what ended up happening is there was a law that was passed that all online gambling in the United States was illegal, right? Party poker gone, poker stars gone, everything was just gone. It's like, what happened? What happened? It was like, we don't want users actually being robbed by these casinos. And the truth is, any casino knows is you don't rob the users. You just run an honest game, and eventually the house will get it all. Right? So none of that was accurate. It wasn't true. So here's what was really happening. All right. you would have six guys living in an apartment, right, above some auto parts store in Brooklyn, New York, right? Six to a 2-room apartment. They would just wait there for their allocated orders. And what would happen is one of them would log on to Party Poker, a site like that, and they would just qualify with $20. They would get $20. They would wire it to Party Poker. Somehow it would be in their account, and they would to a bank account that they would have, or a Western Union that they would have. So what would happen is the Al-Qaeda money person in Karachi or wherever they were, they would get into a game together, right? And so what it would end up happening is this person would bet $19 and the Al-Qaeda guy would bet $20. He'd raise by $1 more. That person would fold, and now he's got $39 in. And so they would repeat that over the course of 10 minutes, and now this person's taken that $20, and now they have $10,000. They actually take that. Yeah, see, now I know this is your love language. You're thinking about this, right? Right. So now they'd say, I'd like to cash out, please, right? They go to the Western Union. Here's your 20,000. Then they would buy Ryder trucks. They would buy nitrogen. They would buy all the things you need to do to bring down. I'm just saying, this is how that thing was. It took them 9 years to figure that out. And here's another thing that people don't know. The Al Qaeda guys were doing is they were going to gay porn sites, and they were using the message boards. They were literally, they were talking on the message boards. That's how they actually communicated. But they didn't think that the FBI was going to be looking on gay porn sites for Muslims. It's like, no, it's too taboo for what they do, right? So like the CIA, we're the only ones that can be covert, right? Everybody else is stupid, right? It's ingenuity. But anyhow, hey, so what is your take on Bitcoin and where it's going and the adoption and pricing and just somebody who's been in the space who's looked at it?
No, I think that after so many years, it's very evident that Bitcoin's not going anywhere and it's here to stay, which is cool. And I think it was interesting when we've seen countries try to ban certain activity. Now we have a big movement of mining companies to Texas and other parts of the United States. Yeah. So like these activities are good for different countries. Yeah. I hope that the US can kind of fix some of the regulation that makes it harder for companies to expand in the US. But in general, I'm very optimistic about the price. I'm surprised we haven't seen another high shot up. I saw some price predictions of like 100,000 by end of year. I don't think we're going to have sort of that last minute pump, but I think over the next few years that those numbers are more than likely.
It's an absolute certainty because I've watched Bitcoin since 2013 and it's gone by 200% every year. Yep. Right? Because last year at this time, Bitcoin was 2,000. Now we're at about 60. That's 2 years, right? That's 200%. So this time, Christmas time of 2022, right? Bitcoin will be, at 180,000 or 150, without a doubt.
I still have people, every single year I've been in this space, I've had people say, "Oh, you're so lucky you bought Bitcoin last year. I'm too late." Every year. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. Someone said that to me last year, so I think that we only have a continued up trajectory to go. And I think that's because of what the technology allows, like this sort of decentralized finance is just, to me, it's just as revolutionary as the internet. More. Yeah. No, I would agree. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what this technology is going to do for everyone.
Yeah, I want to share the story for my audience and for you, right? When I first so the guy told me about Bitcoin, I knew I was going to get it right away. 7 minutes of conversation, I'm going to get me some, right? Yeah. And when he told me about it, right, it was like 70. But by the time I could get the money, it went to 210, right? Mm-hmm. So I bought 10 Bitcoin. $2,100, right? And it's like, hey. And then and that was a lot of money in 2013 because I was a recruiter coming out of the recession. Right? Yeah. And then what ended up happening, I rounded up another $2,100. I was going to buy 10 more. And then and this was in of September of 2013, and the price had skyrocketed to $380. And I said, that's a ripoff. I'm not buying that. And then I watched it go to $1,300, and I remember sitting there on the steps outside of the office that I used to work at with my head in my hands going, it's over for me. I've missed it. all I'm ever going to have is 10 Bitcoin, right? And so,
Yes.
of course, that didn't happen, right? And, Bitcoin has been purchased, at prices even higher than that. So the thing about it is I'm trying to tell people, if you could get 1/10 of a Bitcoin, that right now, if you can find $5,000, you're going to have in the top 5% of Bitcoin holders in the world on planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth on the history of the world. But I got one more thing to say is, I'm talking to my other friend, it's like, there's no way they could stop Bitcoin. They would have to turn off all the power, and they would have to turn off the internet on the entire world.
Yeah.
Right? Now,
then we have bigger problems.
Yeah, right. Then you got bigger problems. But what I'm saying is like, well, what if they legalize it? Then I guess El Salvador is going to be like the new Baylor University where they actually do the baboon heart, because all the money, all the you'll watch. El Salvador will be like the new Bahrain, the new Saudi Arabia, right? Because
it's amazing, that they've had it become legal tender and had such a sort of forward-thinking view of it. What I always tell people is and the way I started buying Bitcoin was sort of cost value averaging. So doing a direct buy of $100 or $300 or $50, whatever your like risk tolerance is. And after a year of that.
And stop looking at it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't look at the only thing that makes me look at the price is Twitter, because people start saying, oh, it's dumping again, or, oh, it's another, bear market or bull run. And then I'm like, okay, what's happening? But I don't usually check the price often.
One more last thing. So one of my golf buddies, right, who I've known, he called me when recently Bitcoin took a 25% dive. I don't know when this show is going to air, but it went from like 70,000 to like low 40s or something like it. It dove. And he calls me up to 44,000. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, hey, I told you Bitcoin was a Ponzi scheme. I said, you're the same guy that told me that when I told you at $200 I bought it, and you said I was an idiot. Okay? $44,000 is still a lot more than $210. Tim Thurman. That's right. I'm calling you out, you non-coiner.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah. So anyhow.
Yeah, and you can still beat him in golf, can't you?
Always. And I beat him by 7 strokes.
That's even sweeter, isn't it?
Yeah, because if you beat by 7 strokes, if you win by less than 7, you just won. But if you beat by more than 7, it's an ass whooping. And Tim, I've always given you those ass whooping. I don't think you've ever beat me. Anyhow,
we're going to check that.
Yeah, he's beat me a few times, especially when I first started. Hailey Lennon, thank you so much for just being so generous with your time. And there's all her socials. If you need to talk to Hailey, if you want to be a lawyer in the Bitcoin space, that's right. Yeah, she's pointing to it. For those of you who are actually listening on Spotify or Apple, right, that's at Hailey Lennon BTC, right? And if you want to get me on Twitter, I'm the BTC Recruiter. That's me. Come on, Travis. Let's get it going. Speaking of Travis, thank you so much, our engineer. Give a little plug for the Sticky Paws. Let's hear it.
Oh, here it is.
That's right. Sticky Paws. And of course, I couldn't do it without you. I'm sorry I dominated this conversation. I know that's kind of
it's very unlike you to dominate the conversation.
For me to talk
so unlike you to dominate the conversation.
So, anyhow, you really need to get to the Toastmasters because you're a little too shy. Anyhow, so RoboRecruiter, and remember everybody, I'm David James, and remember, most importantly, get whisper.